It's about 6:30, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Elise Cruz. I'm the Director of Planning and Zoning for the Village of Oregon. And just wanted to kind of give you an overlay of what to expect tonight. First of all, thank you for coming out. We appreciate your willingness to be involved, and we're just trying to stay creative and keep people engaged. During COVID, I know it can be hard to join in on a Zoom meeting, so we wanted to have an opportunity to try to meet in person and give you guys a sense of the people behind this development, give you a chance to ask questions. We're going to have Brett and Brian from Lakestone Properties introduce themselves and their project. One second. Yeah. All right, and then we'll open it up to questions, and if you'd like to, you can come up at that time. I'll turn on this microphone if you'd like to come up and ask questions, or take it out to you. And then I know Brett and Brian and Jeff Rao from the Village, our Public Works Director, and we're happy to stay around as long as there's questions, so we can always, go up to the boards and just have a more casual conversation, give you a chance to get all your questions answered. So I'll hand it over to Brian and Brett.
Thank you so much. Thanks for everyone for coming out. Again, my name is Brian Spanos. This is Brett Raymond. We're with Lakestone Properties. I know it's a little more difficult with COVID, and we're making the best of it, trying to keep everyone informed as we move on this concept and want feedback. So I'd like to start by giving a little background on Lakestone Properties. Lakestone's office is located in McFarland, Wisconsin. We self-manage all the properties that we own. We manage and develop, and we really specialize in working in smaller communities. Some of the recent projects we've done here in the community of Oregon include Jefferson Crossing right behind us here on Jefferson Street. We developed a 61-unit apartment building right here in downtown Oregon. We also have the Bergamot Senior Townhomes and in the Bergamot neighborhood. These are upscale condos which should be complete in the fall of 2020. We're excited to propose this new development in the Village of Oregon. At this point, it's only a concept plan, and we're here today for open discussion and feedback from the neighbors and surrounding owners. We'll continue to work with the Village and the Village of Oregon on this development based on feedback. I'd like to start by going a little bit background on the project information itself. This development will include 3 parcels to be redeveloped over 2 phases. The address of the development will include 917 Janesville Street, 919 Janesville Street, and 2 houses at 947 and 957 Janesville Street. Phase 1 of the project will not start until spring of 2021 and will include removing only the dwelling at 917 Janesville Street. Phase 2 of the project will include removing the properties at 919 and the 2 houses at 947 and 957 Janesville Street. And the timing associated with this phase of the development is unknown, but it's estimated to take longer than phase 1. So at this point, I'd like to give you an overview on what this concept plan is of phase 1 of the development. Phase 1 is the residential part of the development. The current concept plan includes 138 affordable residential units in 3 separate buildings with access off Janesville Street and Perry Parkway. There'll be a mix of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units in this development. Currently, we're working on having a combination of senior age-restricted units and some non-age-restricted units throughout the development. The buildings will be 3 stories in height and include the following amenities: underground parking and additional surface parking, on-site management office. Tenant amenities are still a work in progress but can include an exercise room, a community room, and some outdoor grilling area. Security cameras and well-lit common areas is also a feature that we're looking at putting in this development. Quality materials will be used on the exterior and interior of the building. Some of the unit amenities will include open floor plans, larger windows, walk-in closets, central air conditioning in the units, upgraded LVT flooring in the main living areas, patios and decks for each individual unit, and in-unit laundry. Again, that's phase 1. Moving into phase 2, which is kind of unknown at this point. That is going to be the commercial aspect of the development. Phase 2 development will also, just to reiterate, include removing the properties at 919, 947, and 957. The commercial site would be approximately 2 acres and would be zoned for commercial or a retail tenant. Again, the timing behind this phase of the development is unknown at this time, and the current buildings would stay on this site until we found the right user for this phase 2 of this development. Now I'd like to hand the microphone over to Brett Riemann, and he'd like to discuss a little more of the affordable component of this development and give you some more information on that.
A little tall for me. I'll put it down. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, again, for coming out. Again, what is, a lot of people ask, what is affordable housing? What is workforce housing? It's basically housing that's built for people who don't necessarily can't afford market rates. Or the problem is a lot of these apartments that are being built right now are market rate apartments, and people who are in a certain income limit, that's really their only option. So they're going into these places and spending more than they should on their rent. And the rule of thumb was people should only spend 30% of their gross monthly income on their rent. So as an example, if you are bringing in $3,600 a month, 30% of that's about a little over $1,000 a month. So it's hard to find units in that price range when you're making that much money. So the government authorities like WHEDA, if you've heard of WHEDA before, it's Wisconsin Housing Economic Housing Authority. They put together programs for developers to encourage them to build affordable and workforce housing. And really that's what we're trying to do on this site, is build 100%, as of right now, 100% affordable units. Like Brian said, about 138 units right now in 3 buildings. But it takes a lot of time. So we got to go through certain approvals that we wouldn't have to if we did a typical market rate apartment building. So we initially, I would say 3 or 4 years ago when we were doing Jefferson Crossing, I got invited to meet with the Oregon, I'm trying to remember the name, the Affordable Housing Committee that Oregon has, which we were pretty impressed of because most of the communities that we're in don't have one of these committees. They're a committee just with people in the community that saw a need and want to bring more affordable to their community. And they asked us to join them on a meeting 4 years ago, and that was the first time that we kind of got brought into the mix of Oregon needs affordable housing. So we started looking, and everybody from staff was throwing us ideas, and these things, again, you think you're getting somewhere and you go the other way or something 180 happens. So we're able to get this property under contract, which we're working on 3 or 4 years, and went in with the idea of, do we think affordable would be a good spot? And based on the surroundings, based on the size of the parcel, everybody thought yes. So then we started putting pencil to paper. We got engaged with engineers, architects, consultants. Does this even work in Oregon? Because in smaller communities, it's hard to, the analysis doesn't quite work. I won't go into all the details, but like in Madison, it works a little better for a number of different reasons. And in Oregon, McFarland, Stoughton, it's a little bit more challenging. So we're still working through the process, but we're trying. And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to educate staff, educate ourselves, educate the community on what this might be. As a little bit more background, we did some research, and in the last 7 years, we saw that Dane County added about 35,000 jobs, however, only about 16,000 units. So, I mean, there's a pretty big gap of housing units, and most of those housing units were market rate, so not affordable, which means either you're paying too much for rent or you're not able to live where you work. So, again, one of those reasons that groups like WHEDA offer incentives to developers to try to get more affordable units is a reason just like that. We did do a market study. We hired a third-party consultant just to make sure, and they reiterated that there's a 2% vacancy rate in the current affordable units in Oregon. They mentioned there's a gap, so Dane County put together a housing study Madison, all the suburbs, all the different communities, and try to identify what that gap was, if any, of affordable units. And they identified around 200 units of affordable housing is needed right now for Oregon. So that, again, helped us understand that a little bit more. I think that's kind of the bulk of it. Again, we're still working through things. We're still trying to understand what we can do on the site, and we want to open that up to feedback with neighbors, to owners, and again with staff as we work through this process. So at this point, I think we can open it up to questions.
So if anybody has any questions and is feeling brave, you're welcome to come up to the microphone. Please watch your step. Otherwise, if you'd like to just come up and look at the posters, we'll be happy to hang around for as long as needed to. Yep, if anybody wants to raise their hand too, I can bring the microphone out to you if you feel more comfortable with that.
One other thing that could be helpful, just a piece of information, is there's income limits. So I mentioned, affordable housing. So when you're managing, when you're leasing these properties, one thing you have to do is make sure that you fall within a certain income limit to qualify for the unit. So those incomes right now, as again the consultants are putting these together, we just got to look at it. They're saying between $30,000 and $70,000 are the type of units that will be offered. Household income, sorry, $30,000 to $70,000 a year. If you're within that range, then these units are available. Again, that can change, but that's what we're looking at right now. Yes?
We're in the 919 unit.
I want to make sure we get your voice on there so we can hear you on the video.
Thank you. We're in the 919 unit.
Okay.
So, since we're being uprooted, are we going to be offered a place? I mean, I don't even make $30,000 a year. So I'm just kind of curious on what's going to happen. Are we going to have to just up and move out? And
We'll certainly give you, as this process goes by, I think we mentioned timing-wise, as we go through this process, I don't think anything's going to happen until spring.
okay,
Or, early, probably, sometime after the first of the year. So we'll give you plenty of notice for that, and please share with us your contact information. I mean, we have not closed on the property yet.
right.
On that one, we're actually scheduled to close Friday, but that one, again, is part
Yep.
of Phase 2,
Right,
which would
right.
be more commercial.
Okay.
So that one, we're not sure. I mean, that could be sometime in 2021, it could be 2022. We really, with everything that's going on in commercial right now, I mean, restaurants really aren't looking to do anything, retail is not looking to open up anything new, so unless we find a commercial user soon, I don't see anything happening with that yet, but you never know. But yeah,
Right.
that was Phase 2, but again, we'll be managing the property, we're going to be owning it, and then we'll be communicating with you for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I'll move out of the way. I live in the building on South Perry that'll be right behind one of your buildings. And a couple of my people who live in my building, we have a couple of questions. One is like all those trees that are between our building and the current empty lot, are you ripping those all out or are you leaving the older trees? Because we like, our little nature area back there.
Sure.
Jeez. We are in this one, so it's like these right there that were, because there's a lot of older trees there now.
Yeah.
And some of them do have to come down, but we're wondering if you would leave the ones that are in good condition.
You want to speak in the microphone so they can hear you, Brett, or I can address it.
I guess until we really see the overall landscape plan, I don't know, Brian, if you saw that, but I mean, the intent is always try to keep trees on the perimeter of the properties to create that buffer zone.
Okay.
Obviously can't keep them all but I mean, the goal is, yes, to maintain the village. DNR always wants us to keep as many existing trees as we can. obviously can't do them where the buildings are going, but if you can do
Yeah.
them surrounding, that will be the intent.
Okay. And, now, the stormwater pond, is that gonna help with the flooding that we have over there? It's not bad, but, you know, we're just worried about with more development that it would get worse.
Jeff, you want to talk about that?
Okay, yeah, and with any new development, developers are required to actually meet very, very strict and stringent kind of stormwater release requirements. So the one positive thing about development is anytime you develop a site, you're actually going to have far better stormwater conditions than you started with. And no one ever believes an engineer when they say that, but it is true. I mean, we greatly reduce the discharge rate from that. Now, we're also making some improvements in that area. We found a new culvert this week, or last week, under North Perry Parkway, or South Perry Parkway, that we didn't even know about. But as you'll see on the conceptual designs, their engineers are going to have to design ponds that actually take the peak runoff from the 10-year and reduce it down to a 2-year event, and a 100-year down to a 10-year. So it's greatly throttling down those release rates. And that's something that, you know, we as a village, we can't give them any relief from. DNR requires that, and so, you know, we see an improvement in this area. Will it stop? You know, we kind of have problems down near Park Street and South Perry Parkway. Park Street and South Perry Parkway tend to be our majority of our problems. And we're making some improvements down in that area. We're working towards it, but the good thing is when it floods, it kind of floods and then goes away in about 45 minutes or so. So, but yeah, this won't make it any worse. It should help actually make it a little better.
Actually, he answered my other question.
Hi, I'm one of the tenants in 919, which is phase 2 of your guys' plan, I guess. But now you said the income, that they're going to be income-based. Now, what about the people that have been living there for over 10 years or several years and chose that place to live because it's affordable, because of our income? You know, it's, I can tell you right offhand, there's no way between myself and my daughter that lives with me and and my granddaughter that we exceed the 30,000 or whatever, you know, limit of income. So what's going to happen to the residents that don't?
Well, maybe it was a little confusing. If you're under that 30,000, you could qualify. That's a limit, right? So it's not like you have to get to that household income to qualify. There's different levels of what's the word I'm looking for, of support.
So again, this is all kind of dictated to us, but certain number of units for certain percentages of the average median income of Dane County. So when we said 30 to 70, 30 was the cap on certain units. So there's got to be certain units that allow for, you know, different income earners to be in. So that way there's not just, you know, a bunch of people making at the higher limits taking up all the units. They want us to spread it out, which for good reason. So
Yeah.
and then again with phase 2. Phase 1 might be up already by the time phase 2 comes down. So there could be those options too. We just don't know. But now that we are going to have your information, you're going to have ours, we can communicate more and just, you know, from a timing standpoint and what these rents are going to look like and for the new units.
Yeah, because it would be important for the families that do live there, have children. And we want to keep the kids in the same school district. You know, they started school here. Why aren't they able to finish school here in their high school years? You know, every place is so skyrocketed on rent, like you mentioned, you know. There's no places that people like us can afford and to have a nice home, not one that's, falling apart or whatever, and you stick through that because you want to keep your grandchildren, your children in the same school district. You want to keep them in the same community where they've always grown up. And to me, that is very important.
You're kind of speaking to the whole reason for the larger development. We absolutely agree with you. Again, development does change people's houses, but this project is really meant to do exactly what you just said, is keep people where they already, where their family lives. They don't want to be moved out because of a new landlord, takes over. So that's the whole reason for the affordable component in this. And again, you're the prime example of the need for it here in Oregon with people that this is their home. So that's why we feel this is such the right spot on doing something like this, and the need is there. We will be your landlord as of next week as long as closing goes, so we'll have constant communication with you. We've been through this process, not on the affordable side, but when we did Jefferson Crossing, there was houses there. We had to work with tenants. That's not an easy process. We get it. So we're going to be in this together to some level because we're here as we will have ownership of that building on the short term, and we don't, again, with being phase two, there'll be more time. That's what I can tell you. So.
Right. Just as long as we have a chance to move into the new apartments is what we're hoping.
That would be ideal. Again, timing behind everything, we can't give any guarantees today. There's a lot of unknowns.
But hopefully down the road you can. I'm hoping.
Sure.
It's just, I've been in the position of being homeless throughout my adult life with my kids when they were young. And it's not an easy thing to go through, regardless.
Well, again, we kind of pride ourselves on, like I said, smaller communities. We live in McFarland. We're small town guys. We're not some big developers from Milwaukee that are going to come in, and we develop where we live and work. And so I would like to think you got the right developer here to work with you as much as possible.
Well, it sounds like that we do so far, and I hope that it's feasible for the ones that do live there.
Right.
So, all right, thank you.
Sure.
I was just wondering about the traffic that this will create and the impact. We already know North Perry and Jefferson is a hotspot for traffic issues. We're putting a light in there. That's probably going to make them in some ways worse. Now we're going to go from 5 units to 130. How are we going to control for that from a traffic perspective?
This is definitely a process. We've already made contact with, we will get a traffic study. We've got multiple points of exit. There's a lot of things about this development we've been working on to address this. It's just as much as parking was an issue on this one, it's going to be a hot topic. It's going to be a lot of back and forth. We're going to be relying on our engineers and the village engineers and the studies to really come up with the best solution. I can't tell you it's going to be perfect, but we're going to do everything we can to be proactive, to learn about it, what we can do, and what the traffic studies will say, and really work the development around that. I think it's really one of the top 3 issues with this development is that traffic, and it's important to us too. Yeah, yep, you're definitely more qualified.
Okay, Dan, on the traffic issue, when we were first approached by Lakestone for the Jefferson Crossing apartments, we were going from a couple homes over there, an auto repair shop and some storage units, to 61 1- and 2-bedroom units over there. We had the same questions with traffic, especially being so close to the downtown. At that time, I know you guys commissioned a traffic study with that, and the traffic study came back, they came out and said, we've done these in McFarland, we have a really good record on what kind of traffic this generates, but we'll do the study. We did the study, or you guys did the study came back and said, it's going to work fine, and I think, honestly, I was myself a little skeptical to say, okay, it's going to work. It has worked well. I mean, I can honestly say in the 2 years, I think that Jefferson Crossing has now been operating, We do not have traffic issues down there, and they were able to really address that very, very well. So I do think, I mean, that's a constant question. We're talking 138 units, but it can be designed for, and we're not talking about 138 units emptying all at once, too. That's the other thing. So, right. And one of the things that the village has requested from the get-go is a secondary entrance and exit onto South Perry Parkway. If you'll notice that the main entrance is coming directly off of where Wolf Street intersection right now is a three-way T-type intersection at Quick Trip, BP, and then the lot across the street. We let them know right off the bat that you're going to have to come right into the intersection at that point, and that'll be a new signal, so it'll be four-way signals at that point. So we think it's a doable solution. You know, with their history, I'm not overly concerned about traffic, but it's like anything else, it will cause traffic. I do think the signals at South Perry and Janesville will actually help things, because then we have some physical control over timing and time of day and everything. So, Park Street, I'm sorry. Well, no, Park Street in Janesville and Perry Parkway and Janesville Street. So.
I'm just wondering if you'll be letting people know as to when you can start signing up and applying for the apartments?
I would say once we go through all the approvals, take in any feedback that we get, go through the approval process with both the village, but also with WIDA. That again is going to take us through first quarter of next year, and then if all things are lining up, we can break ground. First quarter, second quarter of next year, and then it takes from there another year to build. So at the earliest, anything would be available would be spring of 2022. Did I get that year right? But before that, we can start we can start a list at any point. So, but I would wait until things are approved before reaching out.
I mean, are you going to be, letting people or announcing it in the town paper, if people are interested to start signing up, or?
What was the question? Sorry, about the town paper? I didn't hear that.
People that would be interested in signing up or applying, are you going to be putting something in the paper to let us know?
Yeah, we would definitely make announcements both probably online, in the paper, signs as well by the property.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I want to remind everyone that this is starting to go through the process, through the Plan Commission process and eventually the Village Board. The best way to stay informed, for one thing, read the Oregon Observer. We see Emily's here tonight, and they're very good at keeping us well informed. OCA Media as well is at all of our meetings. But if you haven't signed up for e-Notify, go to the Village website and select the e-Notify tab, and then you'll be able to sign up. And you can sign up for agendas, information, bulletins, all those type of things that come out. It's a very good way to kind of, if you just get like the meeting agendas over email, you can kind of scan through those agendas and see if there's something that you're interested in commenting on about. And these, everything we do is public, so everything as they go through this process will still be open for public comment as they go through this.
Okay, I have another question, I guess. Seeing that you guys are doing the closing on 919 Janesville, supposedly, I believe you said Friday. So who do we pay our rent to? We're used to paying our rent, between the first and, myself, the first and the third, to depending on when my income comes in. But, because I had talked to our right now, our landlord, a few days ago, and he said, just hold on to it, and you guys will let us know.
It's a good question, and typically we would love to get letters out to you by now, but we just got all the contact information today from the owner,
Okay.
2 days before closing, so
Yeah.
we are going to have probably letters either dropped off tomorrow or emailed to you, or mailed to you. So don't worry about it, we'll
Well,
get it to you.
don't mail them, drop them off, because our mail is not being delivered because of construction on
Gotcha.
Janesville Street.
Okay.
In front of our
We'll
building.
make sure we drop those off then. So.
Because otherwise, we have to hike it down to the post office to get our mail, and it's just been a little bit of a hassle for us. So, all right, thank you.
They have their cards here.
And like Elise said, we'll stay here if people want to just have, one-on-one conversations with us too, or any other questions. We'll stick around as long as you need us to. Other than that, really appreciate everybody coming out, and again, we're excited about the project. A lot of stuff to do. We do have business cards up here as well, but we appreciate the feedback and look for continued feedback as we go through the process. But thank you.